Mark was an extraordinary person. Mark delivered babies, he saw people into the world and out of the world. He was the classic rural GP, and he lived his life for other people.
The Lord be with you.
Hundreds attended the funeral of country GP Dr. Mark Henschke in Armidale last December. A keen cyclist, he was fatally hit by a garbage truck.
And we're so proud of you, and I know Mum and Dad would be so proud of all you've done and all you've achieved. Goodbye, my beautiful brother.
His family say it's a tragedy that should never have happened.
I just believe that this was an avoidable incident, a preventable incident, and we need to change the law in Australia. Oh, g'day, Phil. How you going?
Mark's brothers, Ian and Phil, have been looking into the accident and made a disturbing discovery.
Mark was run over by a truck that had a blind spot. We have the technology to get rid of blind spots on trucks.
I think the truck versus bike in the blind spot is reversible and preventable.
Their research took them back to 2014, when young cyclist Rebecca Mayer was killed at this intersection in Brisbane after she was hit from behind by a tip truck. A subsequent coronial inquest noted the dangers of trucks having blind spots and recommended a warning system be mandated.
It's been nearly a decade since that was recommended. Nothing much has been done.
Chris Cox from the advocacy group Space for Bikes says action is long overdue.
It is slow going. You hear the words of encouragement, but there's not a lot of the action behind it, political will or funding.
I find it extraordinary that when a coroner says that they should do something, that there's no legal obligation for people to act on the coroner's findings.
5 years after the coronial recommendation, theatre nurse Carolyn Lister was killed when she was hit by a truck in Brisbane while cycling to work.
Carolyn basically stood absolutely no chance of being seen by the driver. Greetings from Mount Cook National Park in the south.
Her husband John is now hiking through New Zealand, occasionally spreading Carolyn's ashes along the way. Speaking to 7:30 between hikes, John Lister said he was disturbed to read the earlier coroner's report.
All the regulators and the Transport Department had effectively just ignored all the coroner's findings, which would have prevented an accident like what essentially occurred to Carolyn's.
Blind spot warning systems can be complicated.
It's probably not as easy as it might seem. It depends on the length of the truck. The sensors have to be positioned in such a way that they can see all of the sides of the truck.
Associate Professor David Logan is taking part in a research program to determine which technology works best.
I'm sure that there are some solutions that will work. I guess it's just a case of having the resources to be able to look into the ones that are most effective for quite a diverse array of vehicles that operate on public roads.
The Federal Transport Minister Catherine King is consulting with industry over a package of truck safety reforms, including mandating blind spot sensors, which the Australian Trucking Association strongly supports. But delays can have consequences.
What is the cost of not putting this on to trucks? What is the cost for the driver who has to deal with that for the rest of their life? What is the cost for the families?
Ian Henschke, a former ABC journalist who now works as an advocate for Seniors Australia, has been trying to find out more from other pedestrian and cycle support groups.
One day we might end up saving lives.
But if you look at last year, there was 35 cyclists killed around the country, and 10 of those involved a truck.
I think it's an emerging issue that we need to look at. We can't encourage cycling and walking without providing a safe environment for people to do so in, and we have to allow heavy vehicles.
While mandatory sensors are being introduced in parts of Europe, advocates concede this is only part of the solution. Ultimately, they argue, governments need to build roads where bikes and heavy trucks are separated. And that was another recommendation from the Queensland coroner nearly a decade ago.
It's a very, very slow process to go and roll out these measures, but to me, they're just common sense.
This problem has to be fixed because someone else will be killed in the next month or 6 months, and some other family will lose a loved one.